Nerd alert, dork face.
I am not a loser. I just have a bad haircut.
Kind of a major dork.
Oh, nerds.
If you're into science, tech, or unique hobbies, you're listening to the right show. On Get Nerdy With It, we interview nerds talking about their passions. This is Get Nerdy With It.
Welcome to Get Nerdy With It, episode number 45, recorded on Thursday, August 28th, 2014. I am your host, Jennifer Ruggiero, and we have a wonderful panel with us tonight. Our amazing and fun co-host. I've missed talking with him. It feels like it's been forever, my gosh. Andrew Nelson. Hello, Andrew.
It really does feel like it's been forever.
I know.
When was the last time we actually did a show together? It's got to be like at least a month.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I'm a bad friend. I'm a bad friend because we used to talk like every day, and then, I guess just life got busy. Well, you've been really busy. You have some news, right? What's been going on?
I have. I just got back from that school, which is why I haven't been on in so long, because the service there was horrible, and of course I didn't bring my laptop because I'm dumb. Yeah. So I couldn't be on the show except for that one show we did when I was on my phone, and that was kind of weird.
Yeah,
I don't think the quality was very good.
The audio was a challenge with that, definitely.
But now I'm finally back from that school, and lo and behold, I have to go to another one. I haven't really figured out exactly when that's going to be yet, but
you're doing something kind of nerdy with this. What exactly are you going to be studying?
Definitely. I'm actually, some great news, something I've been working on for about 6 years now. I'm actually getting my commission finally. So I'm going to be a lieutenant in the cyber operations field in the Air Force.
So awesome.
I'm going to be a legitimate certified nerd now.
That's awesome. No, you're going to have to teach me some things for sure. Definitely. That is so cool.
Will do.
I love it. Love it. And speaking of nerds, we have Mr. Gerard Truesdale, and I know he's a nerd because he has every gadget known to mankind. He's always talking about something new. Hey, Gerard.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for inviting me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for being on. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Just staying busy and trying to learn more and more every day. It looks like it's about to be a big time for technology in these next 3 months. So
I know. We need it. I've been kind of bored, so we need something big.
Summer was kind of bland in my opinion, but it seems like there's a lot of good products and new apps coming out in these next few months before Christmas. So I'm looking forward to that.
I am too, definitely. So we'll see what comes out, and we'll have a lot to talk about in the coming months for sure. So,
yes.
Yeah. And we have another nerd. I hope he doesn't take offense to calling him a nerd, but I think anyone in tech I kind of call that way, and I say it lovingly. I think it's a compliment, actually. And he is, a guru when it comes to iPads and mobile technology and blogging. And I'm just so excited to have him on the show tonight. Mr. Patrick Jordan, and from iPad Insight. Hello, Patrick.
Hi there.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thanks for taking the time out to join us tonight. I've been wanting to talk with you for a while, and finally it just kind of came together. And when I first learned about you, it was from a common friend that we had, Christopher Rizzo. And I remember he was telling me that you were doing Total iPad with him. And you guys, I think, did a podcast together for a while with that. And
sure did, yeah.
Yeah,
that was fun. He's a good guy.
He's a great guy, and I look forward to connecting with him again soon. So shout out to him in case he ends up hearing this eventually. Shout out to Christopher Rizzo for bringing us together. So yeah, wonderful. Well, before we get into the interview, and I want to hear all about iPad Insight, I definitely want to talk about some news items first. So we have a few different stories. Who would like to go first? Andrew, would you, since you're first on the list, what do you think?
Yeah, sure. What do I have here? I have the link. We'll post it on the website when we get done with the show. But this one is titled Officials Expand Space Tracking Website. And this is a website put out by DoD officials, which I found was really cool because it's actually presentable to the public. Ooh. You just have to request an account, and it takes some time. Actually, it took me about half a day to get approved. But if you're in any sort of education field, or if you're a hobbyist or anything really, as long as you're not a terrorist, I guess. They'll give you an account, and it's a big database of space objects. So it has satellites and asteroids and things like that. I don't know, give you exact coordinates of where they are, where they're projected to go, and it's really interesting. It's a very in-depth database, and I don't know, I'm loving it right now. I'm kind of like perusing it now that I'm kind of excited. I actually got got my account. Yeah, but it has a lot of data in it too. It's amazing. If you're a big space hobbyist, it's great. And the article goes on to say that they've really expanded it because of the influx of people that have been signing up for it.
So what is the URL now if somebody wants to get access for this? Because I'm at the af.mil site, but...
It's actually on its own standalone website.
Okay.
It's at space-track.org.
Let me see. So spacetrack.org. Okay.
Just don't forget that hyphen in there.
Right. I just put that in there. Okay, so anyone can create a logon and get it as you don't have to be involved with the military. You can just kind of...
The public, any sort of... it'll ask you why you're creating an account, and you can just say you're an educator, or you're just curious, or a hobbyist, or anything like that. And they'll approve it, hopefully within the same day. It says like 15 minutes, but it really took me a while.
Wow. No, I'm going to be checking this out and definitely submitting an application to get online because I love... That was one thing I wanted to be when I was a child, was an astronomer. So this is just right up my alley. I never gave up that passion, and so this is fantastic. What a great find.
I've always been into it too, ever since... I don't know, dare I say it, Battlestar Galactica. I love Battlestar Galactica, and I've always been into like space fantasy and things like that, and it kind of got me into like the whole, checking out like the near collisions and things like that with asteroids. It's really actually kind of humbling to look at how close these large asteroids that could have caused a lot of damage have actually come to Earth in the past.
Wow. That's crazy to even, I think once I kind of read more about that and know how close they actually come, it's kind of, it would be alarming.
And if you really think of space, like theoretically it's infinite. So at any time there could be an asteroid going, there's very little friction in space, so they can travel very fast without being destroyed.
That's true.
There might be one just out of our range that we can't see right now that might be hitting Earth in like 3 days.
Yeah,
you never
know. We don't know.
It's crazy.
So you've always been into space. Then were you in a Battlestar Galactica? But how about like Star Trek or Star Wars or anything like that? Do you have a preference with one?
I'm a Trekkie.
You're
a lot of people will be mad at me for that, but yeah, I'm a Trekkie.
Yeah, I am too.
I took astronomy in college too when we had to take like lab sciences and things like that. I was never really into the whole like physics and chemistry thing, so astronomy was a class we could take to satisfy that requirement. So
me too. I did the same thing.
I found it really interesting. I loved it.
I did too. Yeah. How about you, Patrick? Are you a Trekkie or a Star Wars person?
I guess a little of both. Probably more of a Star Wars person if I had to, someone forced me to choose.
Yeah. Not that it's kind of funny that people go back and forth between that. It's like, you have to be like one or the other. It's I'll I like both of them, but I lean more towards to Star Trek. So it's funny how there's like that whole kind of, I don't know, is it a fight between Star Trek and Star Wars fans, or?
I think it's a lot easier to be a Star Wars fan just because there's only like 6 movies now, or 7 maybe, 6 or 7.
Right? 6, yeah.
And in order to really be a true Trekkie, you have to watch like 4 seasons of Star Trek.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, how many films? There are 6 films, right? Is it 6? Star Wars?
I think it is 6.
No,
3 original and 3 prequels, isn't it?
That's right. Yep.
I believe so.
And then there's one coming up here soon, right? Isn't there one coming up not this year but next year, I think?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Patrick, do you see yourself maybe, have you been into space at all? Would you use a site like this, or?
I'm interested in it, and it's one of those things I always want to look at more, and I never seem to get around to it, so I'll definitely make a note of that URL.
Yeah.
Same goes for, there's some wonderful apps out there by now that help you with like stargazing and being able to identify things in your own night sky better, and I always mean to really delve into those, and somehow it doesn't, I forget about it.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's they're the coolest apps too, and yeah, it's just really taking the time to do it and remembering to do it, really.
The one thing I hate about it, though, I mentioned it to you, I think, before we started the show, was it asked me to create my password, and it said you need to use at least 2 capitals, 2 symbols, 2 numbers, and it has to be 15 characters long.
That's crazy.
I was a little ticked off at that, but other than that, it's a great website.
That is crazy. 2 capitals, 2 characters, special characters. Oh my god, and 15 characters long. That's funny. That's really secure. Wow.
I don't know why they're so worried that someone's gonna steal my Space Track account.
I know. Like, what are you gonna do that's so proprietary in there? I don't know. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Gerard? Would you use something like this?
Yes, I would. I currently use a similar. It's an app, not really a database, but similar to that in terms of it provides information about what NASA is currently doing, or private companies like Red Bull who send people or different satellites up there. And I just think it kind of goes hand in hand with some of the stuff we're talking about, technology and just being a nerd. Just taking the time to do it is where I've kind of fallen back a little bit over the years, but I'm definitely going to check this out.
I got a telescope, and I don't use it nearly as often as I should. It looks really cool sitting in my living room. It's a nice piece of art. It's standing in the corner there. It looks really cool, and it's, when people come over, oh, you have a telescope, But I don't bring it out nearly as often as I should. I feel pretty guilty about that. So.
It's tough, though,
I still feel like I'm in the classroom a little bit when I start delving off into that sometimes.
It's tough if you don't look it up beforehand, or you don't really know what you're looking at, especially if your telescope isn't super high powered, so you're just looking up at lights, and you're like, I wonder what those are.
What is that?
You gotta go look it up on the internet and see what you're actually looking at.
So good stuff. I'll definitely bookmark that site, and we'll put the link in the show notes. So good pick. And Gerard, I saw you have something on Samsung. What's the story about?
Basically saying story talking about Samsung's new line of phones, smartwatches, and the way that they're going to going forward. And they're going to get away from the whole needing to have a Samsung phone only to use their watches, which I think is a really good idea. In the past with Galaxy 1 and 2 and the Neo, you pretty much have to have a Samsung phone to make those work all the way. And I think that's a little bit of I don't know. I just think that's not all the way fair, and B, from a business sense, they can make more money. What do y'all feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's pretty lame that they want to lock people into using a Samsung device in order to use their watch. If they want to sell more watches or more gears, then they should definitely open it up. Just like I have the LG G Watch, and it's compatible with any Android device. Google Glass is compatible with any Android device or any iOS device. Exactly. So I think they definitely need to open it up in order to remain competitive in this space, especially with the launch of the iWatch coming soon, and then with all the other contenders in the smartwatch space.
Right.
It's really weird. They have... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to add on to what Jennifer said, but go ahead.
Okay. It's weird. Samsung, a company like that, they have a lot of, marketing experts. And I feel like if someone's going to go the route that, hey, you need to buy our particular phone to make this watch, get the most out of this Samsung watch, then the reason they're doing that is because they think they're going to sell more of those watches, or they think they're going to sell more of those phones, but I don't think the general public really thinks that way. I agree. I think you would definitely make a lot more money if you go with something that, it could be a standalone product and combine with just about any sort of device, rather than, trying to promote your own, thinking someone's going to say, oh, I got to go out and buy this phone now so I can use this watch. The only people that are going to do that are the people that, bring home $5,000 paychecks, have that money to blow.
Agree.
Exactly.
And the thing that's so interesting, with you saying that, is that I just feel like I agree with you 100%. Nobody's going to really go above and beyond just to have a watch by getting the same manufacturer as the person who makes the watch. So I just think that it's a good idea to just open it up. I'm sure you like your watch, Jennifer, the LG. I've read a lot of good things about it, but I think honestly, with all the Android wearable type of devices in the mix right now, it kind of forced Samsung to make this decision.
I agree entirely. They had to go in that direction. And I wonder, so is this in regards to their new watch coming out that is running Android Wear, or is it a watch that's running Tizen? Do you know?
It's a watch running Tizen, Samsung's own operating system, and it's also going to have a 3G. I'm not sure how they're going to do this in terms of charging and fees, but supposedly it's going to have a 3G chip built into the watch so that you can access all kinds of information from your social networks to cloud information, contacts on different phones, stuff like that.
Interesting. I wonder if it would work well with the Google Now cards. Kind of like, Android Wear works beautifully with my Google Now cards. So it's just like having Google Now on my wrist, along with some other features. And it's a wonderful compliment. But I'm wondering if Tizen does the same thing. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know.
I've messed with Tizen a little bit from the little experience that I have with it. It seems like just another version of Android, except it's not a full operating system. It's more like an extension per se, and it's looks good on the watch. I've never used it. I heard that there's phones in process that they're going to put Tizen on there. But in terms of a standalone operating system on a watch, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Patrick, what are your thoughts on this?
I guess I agree mostly with the idea that locking it down to you have to be tied into one manufacturer is less than ideal most of the time. Although I can see advantages in that at times too, just in terms of making things a bit smoother and slicker and not having to support multiple platforms. So I guess it can kind of go both ways. In terms of smartwatches in general, I'm not very sold on them as yet. I bought a Pebble smartwatch, which was the sort of popular crowdsourced one. I guess a year or two back, or whenever they came out. I got one within the first couple of months, and it was off my wrist within about 3 days because there was just nothing that it did that I felt like I needed on my wrist. It sent me email notifications, and I get too many of those on my phone. It sent me Twitter notifications. I get too many of those on my phone. It just sent me a bunch of stuff that I felt like my phone hassles me enough about it. I don't need my wrist also hassling me about it.
I hear you.
And I know that, there are tons of people who may find them super useful. They're just not, I don't feel like I need one at the moment. Maybe I'm not smart enough for a smartwatch.
Well, no, maybe it wasn't evolved enough to bring an added value that you would see worth wearing it. I think that might be what it is. Now, in regards for the LG G watch that I'm wearing right now, the reason I really like it is so many times, being a woman, I don't keep my phone on my body. I don't keep it on my person. I keep it usually in my purse, or I leave it behind in another room, or maybe I might leave it in the car, or something happens like that. And I'm not around my phone all the time. So the phone, the watch will tell me, it will say, oh, someone's calling, or
that makes that makes complete sense. I had a real similar conversation, not about smartwatches, but my wife and I were out at a pool the other day, and we were talking to a friend's wife, and she mentioned that she now has a work iPhone, and she has a personal phone. And I kind of said, well, don't you prefer to just have one? Like, my work wanted me to have a separate phone, and I said, no, I'm not going to carry two phones. There's just no way. I don't care if clients have my personal number, but I'm not going to carry two phones. And she said, it's not a problem for me as a woman because I chuck one in my purse.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's kind of the same thing. I'm not going the purse route, so I'm going to stick with one phone.
I hear you. And I actually carry two phones, and I'm a woman, so I have a purse, so it's not a problem. I don't carry both of them on my body at the same time, though. That's for sure. So if I go on a walk or a hike or something, I usually leave one behind. So
yeah.
I would have to agree with you, Patrick, on the fact that you find smartwatches a little bit useless sometimes. I also had the Pebble watch. I guess you had the black and white. I know there's a Pebble and then there's a Pebble Steel.
Yeah, I had the basic Pebble. I think the fanciest thing you could do is, like for a day, it amused me to change the watch faces.
Right.
You
And
know,
that gets
and then like the entertainment value on that goes away pretty quick. I mean.
yeah, and I just like you, I've changed watch faces, even put a custom ROM on there, and other than giving you notifications or maybe the ease of reading a text message on your wrist as opposed to pulling out your phone, I'm just having a hard time because I tried that watch, the Galaxy smartwatch, Galaxy smartwatch 2, and even the Martian watch, and that one I actually look at more than any of the other ones because if you're familiar with the Martian watch, it really just has a standalone face, like two hands to tell you your time, and then one little small bar that it uses for your notifications, and then a speakerphone to talk on as well. So, unless something comes out that makes it really impossible for me to say no to, maybe Apple's solution sometime soon, their iWatch might be that. But right now, I'm not too sure if I'm in the market for another smartwatch.
Yeah.
I was telling Jennifer the same thing, but I do like the watch that you have, the LG.
Yeah. With Android Wear, you might like it a little bit better. It works pretty well. It does lack some functionality that I wish it had. I would like to, for example, answer a call on my wrist and be able to talk to my wrist to answer the call rather than having to answer it on my wrist and then pick up my phone. Because when I answer it on my wrist, I have to pick up the phone. So that kind of bothers me. I can respond to text messages and email via voice. That's fine, but I would prefer to be able to actually receive and make phone calls directly from the wrist. So I think that would be kind of cool. But yeah. So, well, good story. That's a great pick. That is a wonderful pick. So I look forward to seeing what's going to come out here soon. I think there's going to be a huge assortment of smartwatches coming up within the coming weeks. So we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and like I said, just wanted to add on before we move on to the next topic, next person. Samsung's really adamant about not going the Google Play, the Android Wear route. They're really adamant about using their own operating system, and they're even coming out with a headset that's supposed to be in competition with the Google Glass called Samsung Gear Circle. So that's something coming out, I believe, in October, which you have to look forward to as well.
Huh.
Sounds like they're signing their own death wish to me. We can't go to battle with Microsoft.
Or Google these days.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like to see Samsung come down off their high horse and LG kind of take some of that market share away from them, personally.
Ooh, I'd vote for that. I use an LG G3 and I used an LG G2 before that, and they're beautiful phones.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the Nexus 7 that I really, really love was built by LG as well. So, I would vote for them having more success as well.
Yeah, and I'm using the LG G3, and I also had an LG G2 at some point as well. And don't you just love this G3? Oh my gosh. I'm in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do. It's the screen, almost invisible bezels are wonderful. I'm the world's worst photographer, so the camera's probably excellent, but I couldn't tell you because I can mess up any camera no matter how good it is. It's a beautiful phone. I like the consistent on both phones. I like the power and volume buttons on the back. I thought that would be really goofy when I first got the G2, but I found I got used to it very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I enjoy the, and I know a number of phones have picked this up now, but I think the G2 is one of the first ones or at least one of the first ones I was exposed to with the knock-on,
yeah,
a little double tap. I like that feature as well.
I love that. And I loved also the guest mode where if I put in a different knock code, it will go right into guest mode. So they can't access all my stuff. I love that too. And yeah, they did a good job with the OS, with their version of it. So yeah, with their flavor,
Absolutely.
with their UI. Well, let's. So I have a story, and I thought this would be relevant because we're talking with you, Patrick, about iPad Insight a little bit later here, and it is talking. There's been a lot of talk lately about tablet sales versus PC sales, and really they are two separate devices, so I guess you really can't measure them necessarily, but people do. And this story is coming from TechCrunch, and it's called "Why Are PC Sales Up and Tablet Sales Down?" And, they were talking about when tablets first came out, when the iPad specifically first came out, they were talking about how that would kind of take place with the PC. It's kind of the undoing of the PC. Finally, we have a reliable, affordable device for the regular user rather than a huge PC. And the tablet sales were just going, as high as they could be. And same with Android ones. They got into the market as well. And now they're saying that there's a tablet slowdown, mainly because people want to do more with their tablets, right? They have the limitations in their size, the screen resolution, the processor speed. So, everyone that, we have the grandparents and the kids that all have tablets, and the regular users that have tablets as well. But businesses and consumers, they say, are again purchasing PCs, and that those numbers are on the rise. So they're also talking about maybe reigniting the tablet growth with something called super tablets, and that would be, looking at, for example, evolving a super tablet going into, they have a PC playbook at 13-inch screen, 64-bit processor, 2 gigs of RAM, 256-gigabyte hard drive, keyboard. I know that, Gerard, you have, for example, the Surface Pro, which is kind of like a super tablet, I would call it, So anyway, I just wanted to get everyone's opinion on that. What do you think? Do you think that tablets are going to continue to be around, or do you think that they're going to become more robust, or with the invent of phablets, right? Because I kind of consider my LG G3 a phablet. It's 5.5-inch screen. I find myself hardly ever touching my tablets anymore.
I was going to say it really depends on what you decide to call a tablet. Because we do have those huge phones that, people are calling phablets. It has phone capabilities, so it's basically a phone.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is, I've never really needed a tablet, because really all it is a giant phone that I can't make calls with. So, in my case, what's the point? Like, I have my PC here. I'm a big gamer. I can't play games on a tablet.
Yeah.
I live on my cell phone. I have that if I need mobile apps. Why do I need a tablet? And that's why I feel like Microsoft and those other companies are coming out with like the Surface Pro type thing. So it's like a tablet, but you can easily attach an external keyboard to it. Yep. So you can like pick it up, go somewhere, use your tablet, do your business or whatever, and bring it home and sit it on the keyboard and just use it like a regular computer, and that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But do we really call those tablets now, or is that like a whole nother type of system?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's evolving.
You're right.
So they're definitely, they found out that, the tablet, it's a big market, but I feel like it's losing popularity just because of, like you said, the limitations that it does have.
Yeah.
And I remember when I worked for, I used to work for a company called ServPro. I'm sure most people have heard of it. Mm-hmm. And out in the field, we gave our technicians tablets so that they could record the work that they did. Mm-hmm. And the franchises that I managed, everybody hated them. They would just use paper. I could not, for the life of me, get my technicians to use this tablet because it was so much slower than paper. The loading time, they would have to, flip screens instead of just using a clipboard, and they like the clipboard and paper so much better.
Yeah, that's funny. That's interesting. Well, it's I see tablets a lot in these retail stores, right, where they're using it in terms of point of sale systems, or they're using them so they can interact with customers when they're out on the floor. So I think in situations like that, they're good and they work well. But yeah, it's interesting that the market share might be going down some, and it could just be for the general consumer that perhaps they're just more into either getting like a phablet and then a PC or a Mac, and then just kind of skipping that layer in between,
Yeah, I agree. As the smartphones get bigger, look at the Galaxy Note 4 and coming out, and that new BlackBerry Passport phablet. As we can see more phablets, and as they become bigger and do more, I think it just creates less and less of a reason for somebody to go out and buy a tablet, honestly. Mm-hmm. iPhones, Galaxy, LG G3s, people have no issue getting on those phones and browsing whatever website they need to or putting whatever application they want to on there. So I just think that tablet sales, sorry, it's a little echo here. Tablet sales are going to just declining a little bit earlier than everybody expected them to because, as said previously, the Surface Pro 3, the new Asus tablet / all-in-one coming out, all those things do what a tablet does plus more. And really all you need to do to these tablets that are out, like the Surface Pro 3, is add a 3G chip so you can have mobile connection, and you can basically do everything you need to. I can see maybe one day just having one device that's your phone, your computer, a tablet, all in one.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like one of the only people I've found that actually pronounces Asus the right way.
Yeah, I used to work at Lenovo, and we used to talk about them a lot, and could see them when they were coming out and becoming more competitive. And it's one of those companies with a funny name, I guess, that nobody really knows how to pronounce right.
I love Lenovo. I have a Lenovo everything. Lenovo desktop, keyboard.
Me too.
That's my gaming computer.
That's my thing.
That is great. Patrick, what's your take on this? Because you're the expert here with having the iPad Insight website and all the news that you do with that. What are your thoughts on the future of tablets?
So I guess lots of thoughts, as you might expect. I read that TechCrunch article. I saw that. I think a lot of good reasons have been put forward for the current drop in market share. I think tablets are PCs. PCs come in various forms. PCs come as big tower desktops. They come as little downsized desktops. They obviously come as laptops. There are very few types of PCs, by the way, where sales are growing. One of the biggest types of PCs that has the biggest growth is Chromebooks.
That's true. Yeah.
Which is far from a traditional PC. So, and there are some, by the way, you can read market share from various different sources, and there are some sources where tablets are counted as PCs, and then that makes Apple the world's biggest PC manufacturer. So, there are some that count them as PCs and some that don't. A couple other points. The idea of a hybrid device that's kind of a half laptop and a half tablet, I think that's a fantastic idea. I currently own a Surface Pro 3, and I've owned it for about 6 weeks. And the Surface Pro 3 is definitely not a great execution of that idea. I work as an IT consultant. I've used laptops of every flavor, from IBM, from Dell, from Asus. I guess I think I was a bad pronouncer before tonight. And so, having spent 6 weeks with the Surface Pro, my very concise review of it would be it's a decent laptop, not better than decent, because for starters, it's a laptop that costs you $130 extra to get a keyboard. That's not typical for a laptop, to pay $130 for a keyboard as an extra. Its trackpad is okay, but if I sit at my desk and I've got my 15-inch Dell laptop and I've got the Surface Pro 3, the accuracy of the trackpads is night and day.
Interesting.
It's weak. Maybe I got a slightly dud unit, but I've had far too many occasions when coming off a simple restart, it doesn't quite blue screen, but it appears to be dead quite a while, and it'll take me 4 or 5 times of attempting to power it on and hard reset it and so forth to bring it back to life.
That's a little annoying. I've got the same machine, and having to hold down the Windows button and the volume up key for 15 seconds.
You get familiar with hard reset real quick. That's not an attractive feature. It's slow starting up. Maybe not slow, but it's certainly not lightning fast starting up. And one of the biggest things is it's a schizophrenic OS. It's Windows 8.1, which is a schizophrenic OS. You're in the modern UI one moment, and you're back at the traditional desktop the other moment. There are a number of apps where when you're back in the traditional desktop, the click points and touch points become tiny and difficult to work with. So, I'm sorry. As a tablet, it's terrible. As a laptop, it's maybe decent to, if you're giving it a grade, it's maybe a C. to C+. As a tablet, it's an F. It weighs 1.5 pounds. It's a super heavy.
Wow.
You're not gonna hold that device in one hand unless you're a super bodybuilder for any length of time.
See, Patrick, I just wanted to add real quick to that. I see your view a little bit. I mean, I understand. I just think on the flip side, I just look at it a little bit different because I guess from a tablet perspective, it's going to be, like you said, I guess some people, it is heavy. It's a little heftier than a lot of other tablets, a lot heftier actually. But in terms of, I personally use it. I'm in law school right now, so I've been using it the past 2 months for just reading PDFs and doing a lot of just document reading. And I find the Surface Pro 3 actually to be a better experience than I would say right on par with an iPad Air, if not a little bit better, because a lot of what we do over there runs through Windows. And to me, being a Windows 8 guy, 8.1, just going along with it and seeing how it's evolved, I pretty much look at the Surface Pro 3 as the first full-fledged tablet that can run Windows 8 and be a tablet without any hiccups, because before that you had maybe a Lenovo ThinkPad Tablet Pro and things like that. But it's got a long way to go. I agree with you on that. But in terms of where it's at from a Windows 8.1 tablet perspective, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I think you might be right because you qualified it by saying in terms of a Windows 8.1 device.
Right.
The only other Windows 8.1 device I've used are the Dell Venue 8 Pro, I guess, the Dell 8-inch one that ran Windows 8.1, which is nowhere near as good as the Surface Pro 3. I do agree with you that it's a very good device to read on. I have used it a bit. In fact, that's my one purpose that I've kind of kept it around for is when I'm studying for tech certifications. I'll use it as my reader, and I'll use my Nexus 7 as my to take notes with swipe typing and such, which is fast for me. So I agree with you on that one. And I think we're both saying we think the idea of a hybrid is great. I just don't think anybody's executed very well on it yet.
Yep, I agree.
I'm so sick of Windows 8.1. I really am. Like on a desktop, it's completely impractical. Like right now, I'm trying to use Skype, and there's no way to use it without it being full screen because it's like an 8.1 app. You can't get the actual regular program.
Seriously, you can't get. You have to use that horrible.
I haven't figured out how to yet.
Oh,
You have in order to get into Skype right now, I have to hit the Windows key and go to that stupid tablet function.
oh my god.
And use the app. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. No.
I think Microsoft's not a big fan. I mean, I believe they're rushing Windows 9 out as quick as they can.
I can't wait.
I know. I hope it's going to be a lot better.
But after Windows 9 comes out, we're going to have to wait for the next service pack anyway, because it's going to be full of security holes.
I wonder if it'll be affordable or free or something like that. Hopefully so. I don't know.
Or at least some sort of upgrade so I can get out of this infernal Windows 8.1.
Too funny. So, I think now would be a good segue over into iPad Insight, since we were kind of all about iPads and tablets. So Patrick, you have this. I'm hearing an echo again. I don't know where it's. I don't know if it's me or what. But you started iPad Insight, so iPadInsight.com. Can you tell us about that? How did you start that?
Yeah, sure. I'll rewind just a little if you don't mind. So the way I started blogging was I love mobile technology. I'm old, so I've loved it for a long time, since back in the days of Palm Pilots and PDAs and things.
Yep.
So I started hanging out on the web and looking for forums that were about PDAs, and then some time went by, and then I found that I was answering more questions than I was asking. Then I started writing for a little site. I think it was called Smart Mobile Assets, and it was all about mobile devices right in the sort of time when the first sort of, back then they called them converged devices, but they're what we now call smartphones, were coming out. And then my wife went to bed early, and I drank too much one Saturday night, and I decided that I could do it better if I created my own thing.
Nice.
So my wife woke up, I guess, at around 8 a.m. on the Sunday, and I was like, hey, look at my new website. So I created a site that was just all about mobile technology. which was called Just Another Mobile Monday, which still exists on the web. I sold it years back, but so that was my first site, and then
that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
It actually auto-completes in
iPhone...
Google Chrome. That's pretty funny.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I started typing it in, and the entire website actually just auto-completed in Google Chrome. So apparently, it has some sort of popularity.
Just another mobile Monday. Oh. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's where it came from. Actually,
yeah,
it was that Bangles song.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then the iPhone came along, or Steve Jobs announced the iPhone, and I thought, man, that's the coolest smartphone I've seen yet. That's going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a site that was just all about the iPhone, and I ran that site for a number of years as a hobby, and wrote a lot about jailbreaking and jailbreaking apps before they brought us an app store, and then of course I wrote about app store apps and on and on and on.
Right.
And then they announced the iPad, and by that time my eyes were getting a little older, and I liked the idea of a bigger thing than a smartphone that was still mobile. And so I loved the look of the iPad from way back in the early rumors days. So I started up iPad Insight, I guess the day after Steve Jobs unveiled it.
Nice.
So it'll be 5 years coming up in next January that it's been around, and it's been really fun. I think any time in life where you can, I've managed for a number of years. I wasn't able to do my day job because I was battling with a fairly serious illness, which, touch wood, is in the past now. Mm-hmm. But I've never been a big fan of getting disability or anything like that. So I ran these mobile sites, and I don't know that I could describe it as I made a living, but I scraped a living for a few years.
Good for you.
And the years went by, and revenues got a little better and a little better and a little better, and all of a sudden it was like my day job, and it was making more decent sums of money. And I believe a lot that any time in life, and Andrew, it sounds like you're absolutely doing this. I think any time in life where you can be lucky enough to be doing something that you're passionate about it and making some money from it, that's a really great thing. Like, I grew up as a kid, I wanted to be a baseball player. What could be better? Like standing out playing baseball every day and actually making a living from it. And, so being able to write about stuff that you're, genuinely interested in, is a great way to make a living. And I love being able to tell my daughter that you don't have to go settle for some office space type 9-to-5 gig. You can try and look to combine your passions with what you make a living at.
Yeah, I think.
Although I do love that movie. It's a good movie.
It is a good film. It is a good film. No, I think it's really important to be able to find something and do something that you're passionate about. And this is fantastic. The fact that you're able to start this and actually be able to make a living off of it, and to be able to do something that you love and look forward to, and that's your baby. Now, did you do it? Did you have help, or did you do it all by yourself?
For a long time, with iPad Insight in particular, with my iPhone site and my original one, on both sites, eventually I took on a fair number of volunteer writers, and they were kind of the same. They were, mobile gadget freaks, and they loved having an outlet to publish their thoughts on mobile apps and accessories and devices and all that jazz.
Yeah.
With iPad Insight, for a variety of kind of sideline reasons, for a long time it was just a complete one-man band. And then eventually I got to where I took on 2 or 3 new writers, and now I guess I have about half a dozen. But honestly, there's kind of one of those half dozen who will publish something often, and the remaining 5 are kind of once in a blue moon, they'll pop their head up and say, hey, I'm going to write a post about so-and-so. So I think the site is going to reach 5,000 posts fairly soon.
Wow.
Probably 4,500 of those are mine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it does seem very substantial. I've been browsing it for the past few minutes. It's really neat.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've done a really nice job with it. It's great. You have your best iPad apps, your iPad tips and tricks, different deals, and general news items. And it's not just about iPad, too. There's also, like, general mobile news as well, you know. So that's really awesome. That's great. Yeah. I want to do what I love. Well, I'm doing this right now. But
Start making money off this, then you'll be good.
I want to make money, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should qualify by saying that, you know, I managed that for a few years, and then, you know, now I'm strong enough and I'm back in a day job, and, you know, I'm back doing IT work. But also my hand was slightly forced by the fact that it can be very, very, running a site and relying on a website for, you know, as your main source of income, it can be like a roller coaster ride. There can be some, you know, I had one phase, I guess, during 2012, maybe early 2013, where like the amount of revenue per month was ridiculous. I thought I was going to be king of the world within 6 months or something. And then it dropped off a cliff. And I thought I was going to be a homeless dude within a few, you know, so it can get very stressful, the fact that it's very hard, or at least I found it very hard. I guess guys like TechCrunch and John Gruber and some of those guys have worked it out, but for me it was too roller coaster-ish after a while.
No, that makes sense, you know, especially when it's that I guess dynamic and the way it changes like that. That would be quite a scary thing when you rely 100% on that, you know. Then that's, you know, if it were like just a secondary income, that's one thing, but if it's your main income, then that'd be kind of challenging. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So you got this stellar website name, you know, iPad Insight. So you do all these awesome stories on iPads and the apps and all the best practices and trips and ticks. God, I can't even speak. Tips and tricks. And trips and ticks. That's the new thing. The trips and ticks. You know, I don't like trips and ticks because ticks are just horrible when I go on a trip in the woods, right? It's just
If you weren't entertaining, nobody would listen. So
Yeah.
We'll take the trips and ticks as they come.
Funny. So, what kind of iPads do you have right now?
Right now I have two, and they're both the Retina iPad. I've owned every generation. You know, I kind of have to own every generation. Right. So I've had them all, the iPad Air, the 4, the 3, the 2, and the original, and so forth. Right now it's two Retina iPad minis. Normally it would just be one. I bought the Air and the Retina iPad mini, and I knew that I would decide on keeping just one of them. And the form factor, I tend to like the smaller tablet form factor, which is part of the reason I love the Nexus 7 as well. So normally I would just have the one. I have a second one at the moment just purely for testing iOS 8.
I see. So so that makes sense as to why you have two. So that way you're rolling on, you're playing with iOS 8, and you'll be proficient when it launches, and you'll be able to write some stories on it. So that's good.
What about iPhones? Yeah, also, do you have any iPhones?
You know, good question. I think it was next on the list too. No, at the moment. I owned every generation up until the 5. And then my last 6 phones since then, which is a crazy number of phones in a relatively short period. I should get myself under control, I think. My last 6 have all been Android devices. And the only way at the moment, you know, never say never or whatever, but the only way at the moment I could see myself going back to iPhone, because I'm a very happy Android phone user. The only thing that might bring me over, coming back to a subject we talked about before, is if Apple does something, you know, tremendously cool with an iWatch, and they force you, you know, to own it. Well, that, or if the iPhone really, the next iPhone brings a bigger screen, first off, because I can't do the smaller screen anymore. But if they bring a bigger screen and they do some really cool things with health apps, then that might tempt me, because I've worn the Fitbit bands and the Jawbone up, and I like the sort of fitness tracking, activity tracking bands.
I have something that I use now. I can't find Runkeeper. That's what it is. I use Runkeeper pretty regularly.
Right.
Really into that. It's not like a standalone device. It's just something you put on your phone. But my phone's small enough. I can just attach it to my arm and go for a run and use the GPS on that. And I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah. It's in regards to, I'm wondering about the new iPhone coming out. Are you thinking if they were to do a 4.7 inch, would that be large enough for you to give it a shot, or would it have to be like a 5 inch or 5.5 inch?
Yeah, the latter. 4.7 won't cut it. I've used all the Droid phones I've used have been pretty massive screen. I used the Note 2, the LG G2. I used, I guess, an HTC One. Probably the HTC One was maybe the smallest screen. I used an HTC One Google Play Edition.
Nice.
And then the most recent two are I managed to get hold of an international model of the Sony Xperia Z2. So my most recent two are that one and the LG G3. So now it's funny. I used to watch Android people look at an iPhone and go, "Man, it's so tiny," and now I'm that person. I look at it and I go, "Wow, that's way too tiny."
So, Patrick, have you been involved in any of those iOS versus Android debates on Google Plus? That I haven't seen any in a while. I try to stay clear of them, but I remember back in the day they used to be all over the place.
The religious wars, I try my best to avoid those as well. Once or twice I've gotten drawn in. I didn't mean to, but I'm a member of a IT professionals community. Mm-hmm. And once or twice there'll just be a thread on some entirely different subject, and in the middle of it someone will randomly take like a pot shot at Apple and be like, those sheep who use Apple devices or whatever. And once in a while, I guess if I'm in a bad mood that day, I'll jump in and defend Apple a little bit against hordes of, people who hate Apple. But I have to be in a weird sort of mood that day or whatever. I usually just avoid. I don't like those kind of discussions where these are all tech. These are all shiny little tech toys that are, on one level and. I don't like all those conversations where everybody gets crazy and personal and vicious.
I know. I don't know why they take it so personally. It's just a device, they're devices. Yeah. I mean, it's like they talk about it like it's religion or something. It's really funny. Yeah. So what do you think is going to be coming in the next iPad update, the next iPad release?
I guess that one of the ways to describe it is, and I think this is a sort of a typical operation mode for Apple. I think, evolutionary improvements, not revolutionary improvements. They'll add Touch ID to one or both of, to the iPad Air plus the Retina iPad Mini.
And what is Touch ID?
The fingerprint sensor.
Okay, so sort of like biometrics.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
Which the iPhone has, and so it's pretty heavily rumored. I think it's almost a lock that the iPad will get that with this year's models. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, design tweaks to the hardware. I don't expect anything revolutionary hardware-wise. One thing that's been on my wish list for years, and there are some rumors that they may address it a little bit, but I have a feeling they won't address it enough for my liking, is they're said to be going to add more RAM. But from what I can hear, they'll bring it up to 2 gig, which to me is still not super impressive when we have a number of smartphones that have a greater amount of RAM than that. So
yeah.
Especially with the more and more that the apps are getting demanding. I mean, the evolution of like mobile apps is getting absolutely ridiculous. Like there are some apps that are taking like so much, like 10% of my processing power on my phone just to like run in the background. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and and we all want to do more multitasking, and multitasking is partially reliant on RAM. I don't know about you guys, but I'm terrible for having a huge number of tabs open in browsers, and even in a mobile browser, I'll easily end up with half a dozen tabs open. That the more RAM, the better in terms of not having to reload every page every time you jump back into your browser. So yeah, that's been on my wish list for a long time.
Do you know anything about the new iPad having a full size or USB port on it?
I did hear about
no,
that.
I don't. I would not imagine that's high on Apple's list.
Okay. I was just thinking from a jump drive perspective in terms of, or maybe external accessories.
Did you get that as an
maybe if they bring out the that's the other big rumor over the last couple of weeks, and it's one that's been around for a long time. If they bring out that, big jumbo 12 to 13 inch iPad that people are talking about for next year, I could see that one maybe having some USB ports. I wouldn't bet on seeing it on the current, iPad Air and iPad Mini type models.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. I would think just the regular standard Lightning port.
I remember hearing about that somewhere. I don't remember where. So I was wondering, if did you get that from an article, or is that just a shot in the dark question?
That's directed at Gerard.
Okay. It's a question because I'm thinking, I use my jump drive a lot with my Surface Pro 3, and just thinking if Apple might incorporate the same thing.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I definitely agree with the Touch ID and, with that being on there. But the RAM, it's surprising. Like, for example, our LG G3 has 3 gigs of RAM. So why would they just stop at 2 gigs of RAM for the iPad? Maybe if they were to increase it to 2 gigs, why not go further with it? I mean, perhaps it's, maybe it's, I guess, to keep the cost at a certain price point.
I can't even believe we're talking about this. I remember back in high school when I was like, hey, my desktop has a gig of RAM, and everybody was like, holy shit. Like, oh my God, that's crazy.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy. I know our phones, 3 gigs of RAM. I know, it's crazy. I know. It's awesome. It is so awesome. I love it.
What about cover recommendations? Do you have any good cover recommendations for the iPad?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that properly.
Do you have any good recommendations, like accessory recommendations, particularly covers for the iPad?
Yeah, a few. Yeah, 2 in fact for the moment. There's lots of good ones, by the way, but 2 that I would recommend are. We were talking earlier, and I meant to mention that Microsoft makes this big deal about being able to attach a keyboard for $130. The iPad has had keyboards and keyboard cases for it for years now. I mean, for a lot of years, there have been numerous good choices for attaching keyboards to iPads. So that it baffles me why Microsoft thinks that's such a unique feature. It's not unique at all, and they're late to the game. Android users love to tell Apple when they're late to the game. Well, Microsoft's very late to the game in terms of, oh my God, a tablet can have a keyboard, particularly when it's not integral. You're adding it on, which is the way that it's always been done with iPads. Anyway, that's my little miniature rant over.
I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah. So one of mine would be, it's from Logitech. It's called the Logitech Ultra Thin Keyboard Cover, and it's really lovely and light. It's kind of, does the whole brushed aluminum style, so it looks quite handsome. It works like the Apple Smart Cover, so it magnetically connects nicely to the iPad itself. So it's really it doesn't add much weight. It's easy to carry around with you, and it's serving a dual purpose. It acts as the cover for the iPad screen, and when you set it down, it's a very useful keyboard as well. Really nicely designed by Logitech.
Nice.
That's a nice option. So you don't have to just carry a keyboard that's only a keyboard, and you don't necessarily have to carry a separate case for the iPad.
I've always been a big fan of Logitech too.
Yeah, they're a great brand. Do you happen to have a link to that on your website, to a review on that case, or?
I do, yeah. If you just search
cool.
Logitech Ultra Thin, I'm pretty sure you'll see. And I think my review is probably of the model that's 1 year back by now. So the current model is even better.
Okay.
Even lighter, I think. But yeah, you can find that on my site, definitely.
Cool. I'll link to your site with that. That's great.
Thank you. And then the other one is more just for sheer beauty. And if you're, you have, you just won a miniature lottery or something, and you have some spare money in your pocket, there's a company called Oberon Design. And they describe themselves as, longtime master leather craftsmen. And they're US based. And they absolutely live up to that description.
Wow.
Their leather work is absolutely
did you just open the
stunning.
website like me too?
Yeah, I just opened it too. I'm like, whoa, they're beautiful.
So
yeah.
if you're looking on their site, look for a case that's called Celtic Hounds.
Okay.
CELTIC Hounds.
This is great.
I reviewed that case, and I think my review title was just the most beautiful iPad case ever, period, no contest.
Wow. I see it here. Yeah. Oh gosh.
It's not the most practical of cases, but it's like shockingly beautiful. I mean, it's just incredibly beautiful leather work.
It is. This is amazing. I love Celtic designs.
Wow. I'm looking at it. It's
My last vacation was actually to Ireland too.
Was it really? Oh,
Excellent.
nice.
Excellent.
Nice. Now I'm just looking at so it definitely is a little bit pricey, but worth it though. I mean, if you have the money to spend on a case, you're spending a lot of money on your iPad already, so might as well get an awesome case.
I can't tell if that was, was that like a diss or?
No. Well, no, it's just, the iPad is so expensive. So, I mean, you're spending all that money, so you might as well get an expensive case too. So.
It'll look good.
Yeah, it will look nice. Exactly. Yeah. That's cool. So, like when I get a new phone, there's always the top few apps that I quickly install, whether it's if I refresh my iPad and I reset my iPad or my iPhone or my Android, there's always like a handful of apps I download right away. And so what would that be for you? What would be
the ones you just can't live without?
Yeah, the ones you can't live without, the ones you first download.
So I've actually, this has changed for me over the last year and a half probably, because I've worked pretty hard on finding, going back to our religious wars in Android and iOS and all that, Windows and Mac and all that nonsense. Every day I work on an iMac. At work, I work on a Windows laptop, whether it's 8.1 or Windows 7 or whatever. I use an Nexus 7. I use an iPad. I use a Droid phone. So for the last year and a half, or maybe a touch more, I've concentrated a lot on finding apps that are productive, are good productivity apps, or in my view, excellent productivity apps, and that work well on at least those 4 platforms plus the web.
I see.
So they're my go-tos, and they're the first thing that gets installed. So that would be Evernote, which is just an amazing second brain and notes application. Todoist, because I'm not a big calendar person. I'm a real big tasks person.
Okay.
I run my whole life out of tasks, work life and sites life and home life and everything. So Todoist is fantastic. Cloud Magic is a really cool email app. It does Gmail better than Gmail. It'll handle Exchange as well. It'll do all the other sort of typical IMAP and POP3 options for Yahoo and whatever else someone might want. Feedly is my favorite RSS reader that really provided great support once Google killed off Google Reader. Yeah. It's actually used as the back end for several other RSS products that are popular, like Reader and so forth. They're pulling their back end feed from Feedly.
I didn't know that. Is that interesting?
Yeah. Pocket for read it later stuff, or articles that are too long and you want to come back to them later, or they're just really good reference articles and you want to keep them. I like Pocket a lot. Dropbox and Box for online file sync. So those are mine. And again, what I love about them is that they work extremely well on iOS, on Android, on Windows, on Mac, and on the web.
I agree. And I out of all those, I use Evernote, Feedly, Pocket, Dropbox, and Box. I haven't tried Todoist yet, but I'm going to check that out. And I'm also going to check out Cloud Magic. And I love the Dropbox enhancement to 1 terabyte now, and the device wipes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah, they
Absolutely.
The next question that was on the tip of my tongue was, why do you two use Dropbox instead of like OneDrive or Google Drive or something like that? I didn't know they had a terabyte of storage on Dropbox now.
Yeah, well, that's their pro account. It's been upgraded
Okay.
to a terabyte, and but the reason I use Dropbox is it was the first one that really did the job well years ago, and so I became
That is true.
Yeah, and so you get immersed in that type of in that system. And you get your folders and you set up your shares and you just and if you're really using it, it's just a big pain to have to like move it and switch gears to something else.
Yeah, that's true. I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm a really big OneDrive enthusiast now, though. I have all my stuff on OneDrive.
Do you really?
That's just because I use Outlook so much.
Yeah, it's integrated with Office, so so that makes sense. Yeah.
And I never heard of Todoist either before this. I think I might check it out. Like when you first listed it on here, I thought it was Todoist. I was like, is this some sort of like religion app or something? What is this?
That's funny. Yeah, these are good picks. Very good picks.
Well, you might be right, Andrew, because before tonight I was saying ASUS. So yeah, it might be I'm committing another pronunciation crime.
It's okay. I think that's what 99% of the world population says anyway.
Yeah.
My mind was blown the first time I heard it was pronounced ASUS too.
Right.
Yeah, I was surprised too.
That's funny. So what have you've been playing around with iOS 8? What do you like most in iOS 8?
Okay, so I'll preface this by saying that I know that every Android fan in the world will go like, "Years too late. We had it 3 years ago," et cetera, et cetera. So forgive me. But I like interactive notifications. Mm-hmm. I love swipe typing.
Yes.
Swipe typing, a bit like we were talking earlier about, you if you've used a big phone for a while and you look at an iPhone and you go, oh my God, that's tiny. I do swipe typing all day on an Nexus 7 and the LG G3. And there are times when I'm trying to, I'm typing on my iPad mini and I'll be like, oh my God, this is barbaric. I have to actually tap these keys.
Barbaric.
I love it.
I know, that's great. That's so funny.
And family sharing looks really cool. And again, the health focus that is going to come with iOS 8, I think is a very cool thing, just because that interests me a lot anyway with, tracking activity each day, like because even in my IT job, a lot of your day you're sedentary. You're sitting in front of a computer screen, or you're at a client site and you're staring at a server or whatever you're doing, and fit activity tracking and making sure you get up and do things and walk and keep active. That's important to me. So I like the idea of a health focus in iOS 8.
They're actually doing their best to get a feature that a lot of us, I think, have yearned for is Wi-Fi calling. For when those times when you don't have good cell service, you can just easily, it's easily integrated into the operating system. You can just make a call over Wi-Fi. I think if you have a certain service, T-Mobile.
Sprint does that too. Yeah.
You're right. That is a great one.
Yeah, I hope that is built into it. That'd be fantastic. As I know right now it's on my LG G3, and I love that. I use that all the time. So, what was I going to ask? I was going to ask something about. Have you installed Yosemite on a partition or anything yet?
Not yet. I need to think about that soon. It seems like every time Apple gets ready to release their next version of OS X, there's always a couple of my critical apps that are lagging a little behind on compatibility. So I need to have a look at the compatibility list and look at that pretty soon, I guess.
Yeah, I did it foolishly the day it came out, the day it was, and I ended up just removing it because it wasn't ready yet, and it kind of messed a few things up. But I didn't do it as a clean install. I did it as an upgrade, and it just was really, really bad. So, of course, it was fully in beta, and it was just their first day out, and so I know that I'm sure now it's like a lot better, and I think as a clean installation, it'll be beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that works with the iPad, with iOS 8, and just kind of the interaction between both the iPhone and iPad and with iOS 8 and Yosemite. So looking forward to that.
Right.
Yeah. Are there any accessories that you would want to recommend, like any iPad accessories?
Yeah, I've got one. In addition to those cases, I've got one that's more of a general accessory. I'm a big fan of, or relatively big fan of iPad stands. Mm-hmm. There are times when, I'm at my desk and I'm working on a different type of PC, a bigger PC, slightly bigger with a 21-inch screen. And it's useful to have the iPad as a second screen. So having a stand around is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So there's one called the Just Mobile Encore iPad stand, and it's there's a review of it on my site, by the way. It's kind of a neat little compact stand that has this flexible arm. So the arm will go like all the way down to flat or almost flat. So it gives you a very nice typing angle if you wanted to type on the screen.
Nice.
And then it'll come up to a very straight vertical position, which is better for staring at a Skype screen or a movie screen or video, whatever. And it's real compact, real light. Doesn't take up much desk space. I often use it when I'm taking a photo of a device. I'll just use it to prop the device up, and almost every single time I do that and I publish a post, I'll get comments saying, "Oh, cool! What's that stand you were using?" So it's a really neat little stand.
That's great.
I'm actually reading the review that you have on iPadinsight.com right now. It's a pretty comprehensive review. If our listeners want to check that out, we'll put the link in the on the blog as well.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks.
Earlier. You have some nice. You have a nice site.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. It's been my my little baby for a long while.
Yeah, you've done a great job with it. And this stand, I could completely use a stand like this, because right now I'm using the smart cover, and anytime I want to type on it or do something or touch it, for that matter, it goes boom and it falls over. So it's yeah. So it just doesn't. It just doesn't.
It's just meant to look pretty. It can hold it up, but it can't handle
it
the
can't
whole
handle any
touchpad
use.
aspect.
No. It can't handle any use. Exactly. So. Yeah, cool stuff. Very good stuff.
On that note, let's why don't we go into the picks of the week, which is a segment where all of us pick our favorite mobile app or desktop app or any sort of app really to feature for this week's show.
Excellent.
We can go with Jen. What's your favorite app this week?
Oh gosh, so I am torn between two apps right now. So the first one, I'm actually I know I'm only supposed to do one pick of the week, but let me find the link to this other one. So my buddy Andrew Cunningham and also a friend Jason Nunley and the Zarfo team just came out with an app called Rewind, and it's rwindapp.com. And it's just it's an iPhone app. It's a fun little iPhone app that just takes a couple of seconds of video, and then it rewinds it and plays it back, and it's just a constant loop of the video. It's just a cute little app. So I want to give them a shout out and give them a plug. It's a free app, and it's fun to play with and fun to share your rewinds with the world. So everyone check that out. It's rewindapp.com, so it's rwindapp.com.
And they also have a Facebook app page too at facebook.com/rwnd app.
Wonderful. Good call. So we'll put both of those links in the show notes. And then the other app, and this one got a lot of press already because of Tom Hanks. He's behind it. But Tom Hanks launched this kind of fun typewriter app. And it's for the iPad, and it simulates a real typewriter. So it's just like you are on a typewriter while you're on your iPad. And you say to yourself, why would I want this? What's the purpose of this? Why would I use this? I really don't know. It's fun. And you can type with it, and it shows you. And I'm trying to pull up the link, and for whatever reason, it's not coming up. It's called Hanks Writer. Is the name of the app. HANXWRITER. And it's trying to pull it up. It's not coming up. But anyway, it sounds just like a typewriter when you're using it, and you can save your text that you type, and it's fun stuff. So it's free. So check it out. And Who would like to go next?
I can go next.
All right, Gerard.
With NFL season upon us, really is here. Decided to highlight a few apps, and I didn't mean to talk about more than one. I guess I'm kind of like Jennifer on this one. We have just three or four bundled together. Are you guys NFL fans by chance?
Oh, yes.
I follow one team in particular. I'm not a huge fan. I don't watch every game.
Who your all's teams?
I will watch the Patriots.
Okay.
I catch all of their games every season, but
Go Bears.
I'm not about to spend $160 a month or whatever it is on like the NFL TV where you can watch every single game.
No, me neither. Because I would only want one game. I don't want to see every game, you know?
Exactly.
Just
Right.
let me subscribe to my Bears, and that's it, you know, so I
So
feel like
basically, I mean to cut you off, Jennifer. What did you say?
Huh?
I mean to cut you off. Were you saying?
Oh, no, that was it. I was just saying that the Bears rule, and that's it. That's all I was saying. Go
Okay.
Bears.
Personally, I'm a Panthers fan, but we can talk about that another time. But there's an app called The Score. It's pretty neat. It's not strictly football. It has every sport. But what makes this app stand out, based compared to other apps, is the push notifications are really, really on point. You can set them up for halftime score alerts in terms of the team gets up by a certain amount, and customizing. You can even put your fantasy league information in there as well. So that's a good app. And then, of course, the ESPN Sports Center. I don't know if you have that on your phone, but they're constantly updating it and making it more of a personalized type, follow your team, get more information about your favorite players. Mm-hmm. That's really useful for that if that's your thing in terms of, it's even hooked up through Twitter. You can get tweets from your favorite players or from your favorite coaches or whatever. And
that's
then
the one I use.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. And then NFL has their own app. I'm not sure if I personally am not going to pay $5 a month for it to use an app where I can find information out on the internet. But if you're a Verizon as a user, you can link your Verizon account through that and watch games from your phone. But again, how many times have we done that? In handful probably. So it's a cool feature, but a little overload in my opinion. And then the NFL Sunday Ticket, that's just for. It's a companion app that goes along with your subscription, and anything that you hook your account in, anything you get through DirecTV or Time Warner, you can get on your phone, and that's pretty neat to have, and just a fancy football tracker as well. So I just wanted to highlight those because I'm sure there's some NFL fans listening right now, and just to know what they have on your smartphone or tablet for the season.
That's great. I mean, it's really relevant right now with football about to start in 1 week. So great choice. Definitely.
Thanks.
Yeah. Who would like to go next?
I'll do mine. And since we're all nerds here, I think we can all kind of relate to this one. I don't know how many of us have IT certifications or are going for IT certifications, but this is one of my favorite ones. It's called Test King. And I put the link up on our page too. And basically what it is you download the Test King engine, and then you can upload different certification exams to the Test King engine. And the Test King engine is free, so don't be caught off guard by that. A lot of the one-star reviews are, hey, that said this was free, but I have to pay for the actual tests. So what it does is it'll let you download a demo of the test. Let's say, for instance, you're going for Security Plus, which is what I'm doing right now because I have to get it for my new job. So you get a 10-question demo, and it'll give you the questions, and then if you like it, you pay $15 for the actual exam. And it'll come up with hundreds and hundreds of questions that will be on the exam, and you can practice the test as many times as you want before you actually go into the test, so you know exactly what to expect. And it's a very good supplement to like a testing manual that you're going to buy. Like, for instance, I have a CompTIA certified Security Plus book that I'm studying right now, and I have this on the side to know how well I'm going to do when I actually go into the real test. And people that use this have a lot of success.
This is a great pick. Go ahead. Sorry.
I would second that one. I haven't used it on Google Play as yet. I'll definitely be looking that up, but I've used Test King in the past for exactly that same reason, as a final bit of, I think it's always like the final stage of preparation when you've done your reading and hopefully done some lab work and all the rest of it. Then the final stage is those simulated exams, and they're super useful, and they're a good name in that segment.
And if you're going to be paying $300, $400 for an exam, $15 to make sure you're going to pass it is a drop in the bucket, and it's definitely a good investment.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
agree.
Yeah, great choice. Excellent choice. And Patrick, what would you like to? I know you already talked about a ton of apps, but is there one of those that you want to highlight?
Yeah, absolutely. Todoist or Todoist. Or there may be a third pronunciation that I can't think of, but I'm going to call it Todoist. But I'm obsessed with task management, so I've used so many task apps in the past. I've used Things and OmniFocus on the Mac. I've used Remember the Milk and several other web app based ones. I've used Wunderlist. I've used Pocket Informant back in Windows Phone days. And Todoist is just by miles the best one I've seen. Main reasons for that are, I highlighted before, it's completely cross-platform, so it works wonderfully well on iOS, on Android, on Mac, on Windows, and in a web browser. And like, there's a number of apps that will do that, but you'll find that, like the UI is really beautiful on iOS, but it's kind of clunky and ugly on Android, but it still works. That's really not the case here. The UI is gorgeous on every single one of those platforms, whether you're on the web, whether you're on Android, Mac, Windows, iOS, all of them. It's a beautiful UI to work with.
Nice.
It's got a really powerful set of features as well, from projects and subtasks and recurring tasks. With recurring tasks have lots of really easy entry ways to do them as well. So you can say recurring tasks every third Monday. Recurring, it's less rigid than other task apps. So you can do every third Monday. You can do every month starting this Thursday. Just very flexible in that respect.
That's
you
great.
can do labels to filter with, so you can see your today view, projects view, your next 7 days view, or you can highlight labels, and which is kind of a way of tagging. Their equivalent of tags, I guess. You can see a tags view filtered really easily as well. It's got a nice, if you wanted to use it in a group or like in a small company, it's got a kind of an upgrade. I think it's called WeDoist, which is a sort of for business option that looks really sweet as well. Even without that, you can share tasks with other individuals. Just a super cool task management app.
This is great. I could totally use something like this, because I have all these little pieces of paper that I write notes down, and I send emails to myself to remind me of things, and I put calendar things to remind me, and I'll use Google Keep, and then Evernote, and like I use all these different places for my stuff, but I really could use just like a good task manager. Are there triggers that you can set up as well, like to remind you, like when you arrive home to do this, like for Android, for example?
I think it does that. I think it will do location-based reminders. I might be wrong. I'd have to check that, because I don't use that sort of feature, but I do think it probably supports it.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, great. I'm glad you chose this, so thank you for sharing it with us. There's definitely...
Yeah, I've already downloaded it. I'm sold.
Did you really? You downloaded it already? I signed up. I already signed up, but I haven't downloaded it yet. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, this is great. I am just absolutely swamped with sticky notes at work.
You are too. Yeah.
That's great.
Very funny.
And I use that, what is it, just the Android calendar. I don't know if you can link it with, if you link it with your Google Plus, if you link it with your Outlook, but I use that all the time, and it gets to be a pain after a while, manually putting in every event, and it's not as in-depth as this app, let's say that.
Yeah. It's a little bit tedious.
Andrew, I think you mentioned earlier that you use Outlook pretty heavily. It's got an Outlook plugin that works nicely as well.
Oh, awesome. I haven't found that yet. I'll have to see if I can...
Yeah, so you can, with just a couple clicks, you can you can take an email, because, a lot of us, I imagine you might as well, a lot of us, your inbox ends up being kind of halfway like a to-do list. Like, you move everything out of it, but you leave ones in there that you need to reply to or take some action on. So
exactly.
With this plugin, you can just, a couple clicks, and it throws it into Todoist to make a new task, and you can it'll keep the body of the email there as a node and all that good stuff.
Yeah, this is great. I probably just scratched the surface, but I already love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a great pick. I'm glad you chose it. So I learned a lot on the show. Well, I guess we should probably wrap up. We've been going a little over an hour, so I guess it's time to wrap up. Had a super time tonight, and thank you so much for joining us, Patrick. It's just been really wonderful talking with you. Can you tell people where they can find you online?
Sure. Firstly, thanks very much for inviting me,
Oh, you're welcome.
by the way. But online, so iPad Insight is my main site. And I'm on Google Plus real heavily. I like Google Plus a lot. I'm on Twitter as just Patrick Jordan. And my little baby website where I let myself write about other stuff that's not iPad, like Android devices and so forth, is called Tech and Nonsense. And I enjoy writing about nonsense as well, by the way.
Cool.
So,
Is that
so those are the places.
techandnonsense.com?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Well, we will link to all of that in our show notes. So, excellent. And Andrew, how about you? Where can people find you online?
Well, I can tell you where I am online. I don't know if you'll be able to find me because I'm not a heavy
you're not
social
too
networker.
active. I know.
But I do have all of my usernames are pretty similar. I'm at facebook.com/cobblecat. And before anybody asks, I got it from a novel. It was actually turned into a TV show called Game of Thrones. I'm sure everybody's familiar with that.
Oh, wait a minute. Cobblecat turned into Game of Thrones?
Yeah, it was. You'll only get it if you read the novel. It's actually a pretty archaic vessel that one of the characters served on before the novels actually physically took place.
Okay.
So I'm at Twitter, the Cobblecat, because somehow Cobblecat was taken. I don't know. It's usually not, but in that case it was. I also have a Google Plus that is on our blog if you're really that interested, but I don't think I've used it in about 6 months. My LinkedIn is probably the one that I'm most active on, but then again, still not entirely active, and that's pretty simple. It's LinkedIn / the public profile is /Andrew Nels. Okay. So like half of my last name there.
Okay.
And my Skype is well, I'm not gonna give my Skype out publicly, but I'm on Skype right now. Hi.
I'm so glad you're on Skype. Oh, you're funny. And Gerard, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter. My name is @GerardTruesdale. You can find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/GTruesdale84, and you can also look up a nonprofit organization, www.crossroadspts.org.
Excellent. Crossroadspts.org. Okay.
And Crossroads is a great nonprofit, too. If anybody's interested, I'd look it up.
Yes, it's a wonderful nonprofit. And we did a show on it, actually, so a few episodes back, so people can check that out. And for me, I'm JenniferRuggiero.com, so just all my links are there. But for the show, we're at GetNerdyWithIt.com, so be sure to visit us and check out our Facebook page. We're there as well, Facebook.com/GetNerdyWithIt. We're on Google+, Twitter. All of our links are on our website. Please subscribe to us. We're on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, Podomatic. We're on SoundCloud, Spreaker. We also have an iOS and Android app, so please check that out.
We are everywhere. You don't have an excuse.
We're everywhere. No excuses.
Thank you for listening to Get Nerdy With It. Join us each week as we interview nerds talking about their passions.
Oh, nerds.
And be sure to visit us at GetNerdyWithIt.com.